Bruchim Habayim, welcome everyone. Boker Tov, Chaverim, good morning, my friends. And it is once again time for a cup of Kaballah. Oh my God, this one contains a message. Mashahu bivrit, something in Hebrew. Getting messages from on high, that's a big deal. And of course, you can see I still have my previous cups from my previous lives here. So last time we talked, I talked about some of the methodologies for experiencing God directly, merging with God, encountering angels on high, these sort of things. So mystical ascent is one of the aspects of Kabbalistic practice, but there's just as equally potent a notion, and my hair is standing on end from all of the shocking stuff, and that is the idea of drawing down divinity, bringing God and God's angels into this world, into our presence as we stand here in the world as it is, suffusing the world with a sense of divine presence. That is equally a practice for the Hechalot practitioners before the coming of classical Kabbalah. The idea of bringing down angels, having them teach us something or grant us some kind of authority or power to do something. We might characterize that today as magic, but I think the neutral term that was coined a long time ago was deeds of power. Angels who can help us do deeds of power in this world. That also is part of the tradition inherited by Kabbalah and also emphasized by Kabbalah. In fact, Kabbalah is an ideology that believes deeply in human empowerment, the cosmic potency of human action. Humanity, after all, is the pinnacle of God's creative project. Humanity is as close to God already as God could come to a worthy companion for the divine, as well as serving as a kind of divine viceroy over all the other creatures, as animals imbued with the divine, with the capacities of self-awareness, imagination, creativity, and moral conscience. Jews today speak of humanity as God's partner, something that the Kabbalists would likely endorse, even if they wouldn't use that phrase. It goes even farther beyond that. It teaches that God, and this is a profound notion of Kabbalah that may make us a little uncomfortable if we've been exposed to the more rationalist traditions, that God depends on us, not just to make our own lives better, not just to make the world at large better, but to benefit the heavenly order itself. The term used in modern studies of Kabbalah is theurgy. This is the belief that human actions, negative and positive, have an impact, negative and positive, on high. That our deeds, or lack thereof, help or hurt the cosmos, and God's connection to creation, or even God itself. We can sever that relationship or we can enhance it. It is Kabbalah's thesis that it is the duty of human beings through righteous behavior, but also especially ritual acts, to mend any rifts that form between ourselves and God, between the right hand and left hand of God, the God of justice and the God of compassion, between the masculine and feminine aspects of God, and restore all of those disrupted things to divine harmony. Now, what practices and methodologies does Kabbalism propose for doing this? Well, the first one, and one that shouldn't come as any surprise to us, is something that we treat as relatively mundane, and quite frankly, we're sometimes a little puzzled by it, and that's Jewish ritual. Jewish ritual asks us to engage in symbolic behavior, repetition, performance, the use of objects, the use of formula words, something a little akin to a magical incantation. And we can understand that ritual serves some kind of function for us, but the Kabbalists insist that no, that in fact, rituals serve a function for God, that through doing these rituals, even the ones that seem to be logically puzzling or even incomprehensible to us, actually are a kind of mechanism for sustaining, healing, and building up the cosmos. God needs us. Now, in rationalism, always there's the idea that we are creaturely dependent on higher forces than ourselves, and that we have very little influence. In fact, medieval rationalist Jewish thought would say we have no influence over God. God is so perfect, nothing we do can alter God's perception, God's needs, God's demand. God is needless. God needs nothing from us. But the Kabbalists say, well, then why does God want us to do all this stuff? Why are we doing these Shabbat rituals, lighting candles, doing Havdalah? Why are we lighting lights on Hanukkah? Why do we perform the Birkat Kohanim over the congregation? Is it all just for us? And their answer is definitely not. That these rituals are a kind of passcode to sending back divine goodness into the higher realms and sustaining the higher realms with a reward for their supporting us. So it's a kind of supernal continuous feedback loop. God sends us goodness, we return the goodness in the form of a ritual behavior and ethical behavior, and thus the cosmos thrives. So in fact, you can experience rituals in a way that are personally moving, but actually bring God down to us. It brings God into the space where we are when we're performing the ritual. This happens to us periodically. Maybe not at an average Shabbat service, or maybe it does, but at that great bar bat mitzvah for your nephew, or the birth of a child and the celebration of that with a brit milah or a baby naming, the deep emotions we feel at a funeral. These are actually what Kabbalists say are ways that God comes into our world, and that we need to use these rituals self-consciously, not only with the idea that they matter to us, but that they matter to God. Now, there are also other practices aside from Jewish rituals, which the Kabbalists would say you need to do them with the right intention. There's actually a term, kavanah. You need to cultivate the right kavanah when you perform a ritual, and that unleashes its potency for you personally and for the world at large. And you'll find that in later Kabbalistic writings, oftentimes there is something called a kavanah, a little introductory remark that you say before you perform the ritual. One of the most famous is, I am performing this in order to unite the Shekhinah with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. I'm going to bring together, consciously bring together the male and female aspects of God by performing this act, by doing this ritual, and God will be harmonized in my life and will be present in my life. So that's one aspect. Ecstatic Kabbalah, which emerges pretty much the same time as the Zohar, is a different branch of Kabbalah that also engages in other kinds of understandable meditative practices as part of this experience of drawing down God. One of the customs is, in fact, to meditate on a Hebrew letter, all right? Concentration meditation on a particular Hebrew letter, that you will study it and its nature will change in your field of vision and in your mind, and eventually things will unfold from that and you will feel the presence of God with you. It is also the case that in later Kabbalah, there's a belief in metoscopy, that is, that words and letters will materialize to convey messages directly from God. Now, the most popular form of this is that it occurs on your forehead, that there are adepts and masters who can read your forehead and will see divine messages appearing to you. But it doesn't have to be that. Simply using a Hebrew letter as a point of concentration will help induce that. There are others. Meditating on water, looking at the persistent but always in motion, scintillating presence of water is a great meditative tool. We've all had that experience standing on a bridge or sailing on a boat, looking at the ocean. That is also a tool. Also, the study of very, very slight motion. With the invention of the mechanical clock, one of the customs practiced as a meditative practice by the Hasidic people were the idea that you would study and focus on the clock and capture its motion in your mind and be able to see the minute change happening on a continuous basis. So clock meditations based on the mechanics of the modern world, these two were part of that experience. But the most important thing for drawing down God into our midst is for us to utilize the tools given us by the Masorah, by Jewish tradition, in order to cultivate this, whether it's blessing a challah, or giving tzedakah, or helping to arrange a wedding for a poor couple, or accompanying someone to their grave. All of these things are not only good for us, but they're good for God. And who doesn't want to do something that benefits someone else? So that's a second piece on the idea of meditation in Jewish mysticism. I'll continue with another session, and we'll bring this to a wrap up. Is this 8 or 9? This might be 9. Oh, I'm not sure if I can get it all done in 10 sessions. We'll see how far we go. So thank you, everybody, and we will see you next time.